How to keep your trust private. Let's go. Hey everybody, Zach Anderson of Valley Estate and Elder Law here to tell you in a short and sweet way how to keep your trust private in Alabama. The first way to do it is to not file it. I get this question a lot. Where do I file my trust? Where do I take my will once it's done? Do I file it anywhere to have it on file or something like that? And the answer is no. Trusts are going to remain private, at least the way I set up estate plans based on trust for my clients. So that's the first thing, is we don't file it anywhere. The second way we keep your trust private, at least under Alabama law, has to do with when you buy or sell property. So think about it. When you go into a closing, the closing attorney or title company or whomever's doing the closing needs to know that if you're selling or buying property, you have the legal authority to do that, right? They're not just going to look and say, oh, your last name is Anderson, and this is the Anderson Family Living Trust, as I have, that's my trust. Therefore, we're pretty satisfied that you, Mr. Anderson, can sign for that trust. Well, there's more than one Zach Anderson in this world, and there's actually more than one Zach Anderson who's an attorney, although I don't think in Alabama. But the point is, the closing attorney has got to have something more than that. They need to know that you can bind the trust, sign for the trust, and that you have legal authority to act for the trust. Well, option one is you can hand them the entire trust and they can flip through it. And anything that you have in there, a certain item going to a certain person, maybe you're giving everything to your spouse, maybe you're giving everything to your church, maybe you're giving everything to your kids, or more to this kid and less to this kid. Whatever you do, of course, is up to you. But the point is, don't you want to keep that private? Isn't that between you and whomever you want to share it with? I have some great closing attorneys that I use for my clients. I don't really want them knowing what's in my trust, and whether or not I have anything to hide, that's not for you to know. I don't, but that's not for you to know. So that's option one. I don't like that option. Just give them the trust, let them flip through it. That's option one. I don't like that. There's a better way. Option two, something called a certificate of trust, also called a certification of trust, sometimes called an affidavit of trust. I don't care what you call it, but I do want you to know the concept. This is stated in this code section in Alabama Code Section 19-3B-1013 or 1013. It says, if you submit an affidavit that has the following information in it, the closing attorney can't demand the whole trust. They have to be able to rely on this affidavit. And the contents of this affidavit or certification or certificate are as follows. I've got them listed right here. First, who's the trust makers? Tell them who made the trust. Second, who's the trustees? The people managing the trust, the people that can act for the trust. Third, what's the tax ID number of the trust? This is sometimes called an EIN, taxpayer identification number. Is it the identification number of the trust makers? Is it a different EIN? That's very important, and that needs to be coordinated and discussed well before you make the trust. But whatever it is, that needs to be stated. And fourth, that the trustees are going to certify that the trust has not been revoked to their knowledge. If these four things are in here, and you can put some other things in there, if these four things are in here under this law in the Code of Alabama, closing attorney has to be able to rely on that affidavit. They cannot demand the whole trust. And look at that. That is how we just kept your trust private, and you can still buy or sell property in the name of the trust. By the way, you can tell, just a quick note, you can tell I just got new markers because we used a bunch of different colors on this board here. One last item of caution. Make sure that the terms of the trust allow this. In almost, probably all of my trusts, but at least almost all of them, I have a paragraph, a provision that says somebody like a banker or closing attorney or something like that can rely on a certification of trust to make them be comfortable with the reliances in this document so that they don't have to demand the whole trust to make sure the trustees can sign for the trust. So is this on the board? If this language is in here, That's a question that my clients are not going to have to answer. So we're going to make sure this provision is in there, make sure it's in your trust. But this is a very, very powerful, sneaky little code section that most people overlook that has a great way to keep your trust private during your lifetime. And I hope you learned something in this video.